Well, what is going on, everybody? It's Thursday. You know the deal. It has been a very interesting last few days. We will be getting into that, as I'm sure you guys are well aware. But first and always, let's get this introduction going, you guys. For those who don't know, and I hope we have a lot of new watchers today, THORChain is the world's leading Bitcoin DEX. You can swap 13 different blockchains across 41 different pools without using bridges or wrap tokens. Check it out at swap.thorchain.org, swap.thorchain.org. Anyone in the world can use THORChain. There's no account to open, no KYC required, and privacy is a human right. THORChain has two tokens, Rune and TCY. The fees for swapping on THORChain are paid in Rune, and that's where the yield comes from. The fees are deducted from swaps, so you do not need to own Rune to trade on THORChain. The Rune token is also deflationary as 5% of the revenue is burned. 10% of the protocol's revenue goes to TCY token holders. Remember to stake the TCY tokens in order to collect this yield. There are no block rewards on THORChain. The protocol's revenue is real money paid by real users. THORChain is more than just a DEX. It is a programmable layer 1 with the ability to create smart contracts on it. This is called the app layer and is being developed by Rujira. Guys, if you need help with THORChain in general, join the THORChain community Discord, Telegram group. Links for those are on THORChain.org, THORChain.org. And please follow THORChain and Facebook on Instagram, THORChain TikTok, THORChain Contact on TikTok, excuse me. We need 1,000 followers to live stream on those platforms. And always remember, guys, this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute financial investment or legal advice. Woo! Chad. What a week. What a week we have been having here. How you doing?
Good, man. We're doing good. We had a nice little pump and Rune this week, which is nice. I'll take it, you know.
Yes, we have had a pump in Rune. We've had a pump in a lot of things. And this is the thing with THORChain believes, right? We believe in neutral, permissionless infrastructure. That is what's necessary for the world, right? 100%. We have someone trying to join right away. This is unusual. So I don't know, Chad, maybe you want to give a quick breakdown of what's been going on in case people don't know, or I can do it, but I'll kick it to you just in case.
No, I'll let you do it. I've actually been offline the last couple of days, and so I'm still kind of catching up in some ways, you know.
I understand. So, guys, for those who have not noticed, there was a big exploit in the blockchain space. There is something called KelpDAO or something like this. And they were using wrapped assets that were secured by something called 101 DVN, a 1-of-1 DVN. Sounds pretty secure. It was not. Hundreds of millions of dollars were rubbed from this protocol. The accusation is DPRK. I don't know for a fact, but that's what's being said. And it's hurt a lot of people. Of course it has. And those funds, because THORChain is neutral and permissionless, have been going through THORChain. And I think they're about done. Something similar happened in the past with Bybit, where it was $1.5 billion exploit, and THORChain had a gut check then, and we maintained our ethos then. There is no difference now. In fact, I would say we are more rock solid than ever. Well, something very interesting, Chad, is it is layer 0, and there was someone you had a conversation with. I want to say it's about 2.5, 3 years ago. I forget the name of the individual. I'm sorry, but it was something called Stargate, and you had a debate about the security posture of what they were building, and you were not a fan. Maybe this is a good time for you to expand upon that, if you will.
Oh yeah, I vaguely remember that. It was it felt like ages ago.
We were yes, we were young men.
Yeah, I remember like it required there was two things. And this is from years ago, so my brain is like having a hard time kind of reaching that far back. But they had two concepts. One was called an oracle, and one was called something else. I don't know the exact things. And by default, layer 0 was both of those things. And so like you just have to trust that they were going to do what they're supposed to do, and they weren't going to rug you, and all this kind of stuff. And I remember like kind of pointing this out to, I forget who it was I was chatting with, and they didn't have a really good answer to that. And so like, well, how are you going to solve this problem? How are you going to make it like properly decentralized? And his response, or I don't think I'll ever forget this part because it was just so iconic. His response was, well, the DAO will figure that out. Like, Like, I just found it the most ludicrous idea that you're gonna like let. To be honest, like the DAO, it does you don't go to the DAO for any DAO for like innovative ideas like or like solving problems. You just present solutions to the DAO, and then usually they vote on one thing or another. They're not going to be like you need a visionary, somebody who's bright, somebody who can think on the bleeding edge and get creative and like you can't just throw your arms up and like the DAO will do it. It's just like it's a very weird stance, and it just made it very obvious from the get go that decentralization was not the goal here. It might have been a tagline, right, in a sense, but it wasn't the goal.
Yeah, and to be clear, guys, we are definitely not like loving the fact that a protocol got exploited or that people got hurt, or we're not trying to make fun of a protocol. But this stuff matters, right? You got to have a security posture that follows first principles. And THORChain, throughout the years, we have learned a lot. I mean, we've been in the ringer for going on 6 years now, Chad. I think we're becoming the old man of crypto. I mean, when you can last that long as a blockchain, that's some serious credibility. And this is not meant to humiliate anybody, but it's got to be pointed out. If your security posture is not built on sound principles, people are going to get hurt. People are going to get rugged, right? And you're going to get called out on your bluff. I mean, a one of one DVN, I don't even understand how it works, but it's really dumb. That's a very dumb thing to have a single signature, that can result in people losing everything. It was a very sophisticated attack, but there are actors out there. It's their full-time job, basically, to figure out how to exploit funds.
Yeah.
And so I forget who said, I don't know if it was you, but if it's someone else's full-time job to figure out how to exploit you, it's got to be your full-time job to really think about your defense posture, because it's
Yeah,
not going to end up well.
I'm just going to reiterate what you just said. Like, nobody's celebrating that this protocol got hacked. Obviously, it's fucking terrible. We wish nobody harm in any stretch, way, shape, or form. We don't want to be harmed by any way, stretch, or form. Of course, we make best efforts as protocol engineers to make things as secure as possible. There's a little bit it sounds like there's a little bit of finger pointing on both sides here. Like KelpDAO, or what it's called, is pointing at layer 0, and you say, oh, you guys got hacked and we lost our funds, and then layer 0 is pointing at them and saying, well, we told you not to use a one of one system, even though I think that's what it is by default. Don't correct me if I'm wrong, I apologize, but that's what it's like. Somewhere I heard that it was part of the documentation or whatever. Not quite sure, but like, again, I've been offline for the last couple of days dealing with some stuff, and so I've actually not even up to the edge of all that was about. But my heart goes out to anybody that was hurt. I did, and even to the engineers behind KelpDAO and Layer 0. Like, I'm sure it's a horrible feeling, when you get exploited. It's obviously you put so much energy and effort to protect whatever protocol we're talking about, and when it happens to you, it's like, oh god, it just sinks right to your stomach, and it never feels good. So my heart goes out to all of you guys, and I wish you all the best.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that too, because I think that's something we really want to convey. This is not a time where we snicker and sneer and make fun of anyone. We wish everyone well, and we hate when bad actors do something like this. And, THORChain in 2021 did have exploits, I should say. That was kind of part of, like, we were ChaosNet, and that was kind of something we were expected. But even though we were expecting, I think it hurt us a little more than we were anticipating, and it still was a terrible moment for our history. But we learned a lot from that moment.
We learned a lot. Yeah.
Yes, we
I
did.
mean, I think it's one of the great things about this protocol that's so unique, is that, like, we've just been through everything. We're kind of like, as you said, like the old man on DeFi in some sense. Like, we've been around since, the like OG DeFi protocols, like THORChain is up there. And despite going through all the things we've been through over the last year, and there's been, many things up on the upside and on the downside, like, we're still here, we're still shipping, we're still, doing like large amounts of swaps, we're still making major revenue for, everybody involved in the protocol. Meanwhile, a lot of other protocols, haven't been through what we've been through, and still couldn't survive, and died or became zombie chains, or whatever you want to call it. I'm very proud of this community and its ability to, take the punches and get back up and keep doing, because we all know that, like, what we're doing here is not for fun and games necessarily, although we're having a fun time while we're doing it. We're doing something that's, like, really beneficial to society, in my opinion, my genuine perspective, and to have permissionless trades between chains in a free and open, transparent way is critical.
Absolutely right. When THORChain started, we were nothing like we are today, right? And especially just like on the community level, like a lot of people they joined THORChain, but they did not have the ethos, the rigor, the tenacity to really carry through for what we meant: permissionless, non KYC, neutral infrastructure. And
Right.
through the trials and tribulations, we have lost a lot of people, and those people did do good work. I'm not throwing shade at them either, but I think now in 2026, this community has never been more consolidated, more determined, and more unified in what we represent in our mission statement. So I love it. We do have someone who did join. Ray, do you want to check your mic? Thanks for joining. We often don't get guests, so I love it. Go ahead, test it for us.
Hi, how's it going, guys? Can you hear me?
Good. Yeah, how you
Can
doing,
hear you
Ray?
well. What you got
Very
for us,
good,
buddy?
very good. Great to be here. Keep on. I'll work in the background and just listen to you while I'm working.
Oh, very
Okay.
good. So we have a we have a separate link for listening in, buddy. So Coke, if you want, can you give that to Ray? And that way, as I have to kick you off the stage, unfortunately. So why don't you exit out and Coke will sling it to you. And that way you can listen in. Okay, bud? Poor guy.
Thanks for stopping in, Ray.
Yeah. Look, in his defense, we our links we posted, that was a recent error we made. We posted the wrong one, so that's still floating out there. So nothing wrong with
Yeah,
Ray.
yeah,
But
yeah.
great to hear his voice. Love talking to our one of our favorite Canadians. It's between him and Kenton. They're both really good dudes. So,
I
but
didn't know
yes,
Kenton was
to get
Canadian.
back, I'm sorry.
I didn't know Kenton was Canadian.
He is. He is a Canadian.
Now I like him even less.
Yeah, me too.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Kenton, he's not here, you guys. He is going in for I think it's a colonoscopy or something. He's taking some Metamucil. I don't know what's going on. He said he might be traveling. I can't remember what it is, but we wish him well. He's an old man. He can't make it this time. But if you're listening, Kenton, we love you, buddy. But yeah, no important updates on the marketing. We bust each other balls, you guys. That's what we do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but so yeah, Chad, it's been I've been really happy to see online people coming to THORChain's defense, but I got to be honest, and I don't know if these are bots or if they're real individuals, but there has been a lot of people who've come against THORChain,
Mhm.
and we've been waging that PR battle, and I think we are winning. I think people understand what we're doing, but man, I just don't get why people don't understand what our ethos is here, and that in order to free the world, you got to have neutral infrastructure.
Well,
What do you think the
I
hangup is?
I think the hang up is that, like, in each, like, bull market cycle, you see a large influx of people, right? And usually each cycle you get a larger amount of people in the previous. That's why the price goes higher, because more people involved. Um, and so, like, if you go back to early days of Bitcoin's history, when it was first launched, the people that were engaged with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general, which was just Bitcoin at that time, uh, were cryptographers, right? And they were just people who thought this was an interesting cryptography experiment. Wasn't really intended to be like, debunk the dollar necessarily or anything like this. It just was like, this is a really interesting cryptography experiment of, digital scarcity and like all these kind of things and Byzantine fault tolerance and blah, 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 all this kind of fancy stuff. And then you had like a bull market where the price actually moved somewhere. And then you got like libertarians to come into the place. You know what I mean? Libertarians who had a very strong conservative perspective about anti-government in some ways, and most recently we had a lot of institutions come in because you had like the Bitcoin ETF come in, and so you're seeing what happens over time is like in the earlier days of crypto, you had kind of the diehards, the cyberpunks, the kind of niche people that are on the edge that are and they have a very different worldview. And as Bitcoin and cryptocurrency gets larger and a more inclusive space with a larger view of of the world or whatever, not everybody coming into the space is going to be highly aligned to Satoshi's original vision from 2009, right? And I think that's what's largely happening here is, nobody would have even dared to argue with us on this topic, 5 years ago, right? Like nobody would have argued with this, that like it would have chastised THORChain, like in such significant ways if we were censoring transactions. They would have been like, oh, you guys aren't even DeFi or this and this. Like we would have been completely like lambasted by the entire industry if we were to do something like that. But times have changed. cryptocurrency's gotten a lot larger as a community with a lot more diverse opinions. And, let's be honest, like the mentality that we have as a community about censorship resistance and all these things is kind of a niche notion relative to your kind of normies outside of the crypto space, right? And so you see a bunch more people coming in, and they have a more traditional way of looking at the world, where they like big government, or they like things to be controlled by a few select people and that kind of thing, and their viewpoint is that, and that's fine. Like, they can have their viewpoint, like teach their own. But for me personally, like I still hold true to the original kind of concepts of what made this industry, and to what Satoshi kind of started, like back in like 2009, 2008, if you want to include the white paper. So like it's just, that's just the way of the world. But like, it's our job as a community to state our opinion as clearly and concisely as possible, to give a strong argument of why it's important that we have such a resistance, and why that's important for society, and why we have to do these things, which is partially why I wanted to bring Tevano. I was talking to Tevano directly on Twitter yesterday or 2 days ago, whatever it was. And, trying to get her to go onto a space with me to have a substantive long form conversation, to kind of share the opinions and viewpoints, and kind of hit heads in a respectful kind of manner. Unfortunately, she didn't really want to have a conversation with me. I don't know, she thinks I'm a useful idiot apparently, or something. I don't know, whatever. But like, we just have to educate the new people coming to the space, and explain to like why this is so important that we achieve this.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm glad you mentioned Tavano, because she did unfortunately block me yesterday, and I've been talking with her for years now. Maybe she doesn't remember who I am, but hi Tay, I'm Patriot Sounds. If you happen to watch this, and I hope you watch this and listen to why we do this, why we're here, and for a lot of the reasons that Chad gave. Because I think you're right, Chad. 2008, right? Great financial crisis, subprime mortgages. They're repackaging things in tranches. They're in bed with the rating agencies, giving these nonsense positive classifications that these things are trustworthy. The whole thing falls, dies. A lot of people get hurt. And then Bitcoin comes out 1 year later as like a possible solution, making something, an economic system that's neutral, right? There's no one in behind the curtain, pushing buttons, twisting knobs, pulling levers, right? It's just free, permissionless, peer-to-peer, neutral infrastructure that anyone can use. And
Right.
that is why we're here. That is why we're here. Because yeah, DPRK or whoever it is, I don't know, is really bad. There are bad people, but THORChain is raw, neutral infrastructure, and it's like a highway, right? Bank robbers use highways. Bad people transport things on highways, but the highway is necessary for society to function, right? And if we are going to continue, my personal opinion here, if we're going to continue as a society and be healthy and return to a time where, children can have hope and dream big, we need to make the economic infrastructure completely and utterly neutral, to abstract away the human element, to remove all forms of corruption. And THORChain is desperately trying to do that by allowing people simply to swap asset A for asset B. That's it. And yeah, that means bad people are sometimes going to use the infrastructure. But the positive from having this new infrastructure is that we can prevent,
Right.
these governments from destroying things. Well, because like, let's go back to Bybit days. That was $1.5 billion. That sucks. $1.5 billion are stolen in a swap. But how much money has my own government, our own government, has put us in debt? $40 trillion. There's not even a comparison there. So, it's like we're being asked to prefer one system when we could just say, why not we just not do both? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I always kind of think about like this idea of like freedom of speech is a thing that everybody agrees with, right? The old kind of famous quote is, "I may not agree with what you're saying, but I will fight to the death so that you can say it," right? As long as you're not inciting harm onto another individual or something like this, like, you can say whatever you want to say. It's a free country. That's the way it should be. And to be honest, your money and your assets should be the same, right? Nobody can harm somebody else because they made a swap on THORChain. Like, it's a ridiculous notion. And I can't harm Denny because I traded my ETH for like USDC or whatever. Like, it's just a silly notion, right? And so if you got a problem with the person that traded, like, we're not a mixer, by the way. Like, the transactions are entirely on record, and you can see where it comes from to where it goes to. Like, it's no different than when I take some stolen ETH and I move from one wallet to another wallet. It's the same thing, right? Like, if you're transferring ETH between two OX wallets, like, there's no mixing there. There's like where the money is. It's not hard to figure that out. It's actually extremely easy. And it's like so funny because in the kind of more traditional finance world where you have to, limit transactions and all this kind of stuff, like if you want to get information about the transactions that occurred in a bank or something like this, you have to get a subpoena. It takes, days or weeks or, depending upon the circumstances, it could take a while. But in like the THORChain and blockchain world in general, it's like in clear text, in live time. Like if you want to know where the swap from ETH to Bitcoin or vice versa, whatever, like you don't need to subpoena anybody. It's open. It's transparent. Like it's the most efficient tool for for governments who want to regulate. Like it is actually the most efficient tool for them because everything's is transparent. So it's just like, I don't know what you want, right? Like, if you want me to start censoring transactions or have the community censor transactions, then like, okay, then you have to say the same thing about Ethereum and Uniswap and Bitcoin and like all the other things. And if that's what we're doing, then what are we doing here? Like, just stay in TradFi world if that's the mentality. Like, what's the point of it all? If we're just like, oh, okay, we're exchanging, governments who at the very least have elected officials to some blockchain that's run by a foundation by some individuals who I don't even know who they are. They're non-elected officials. They're anonymous, but yet they can control my money. Like that's even worse design than what the traditional finance system is. Like I don't want that. I don't want a bunch of anons who 12 of them can get in a room and say they don't like me anymore because of the color of my glasses or something like this, and just like we're gonna freeze Chad's funds if they choose so. And then there's no recourse for it. There's no laws around that. There's no due process of any kind. I mean, it's a much worse system than we're trying to get past. It's crazy to me.
100%. And they use the multiple arguments. It's like, well, why don't you put a filter on there? Why don't you do this? And it's like, because it doesn't work. It's not possible. It's just,
it doesn't even function.
Yeah.
It doesn't even work. When chain analysis, marks your address as some malicious thing or whatever, if you want to get around it, and this is not like a secret, by the way, you just transfer 3 times to some other wallets. Done. You're out. You're free. You can trade. You can go to use some UI. It doesn't even do the thing that you want it to do. It's crazy to me.
This is a thing that kills me because a lot of these dexes, well, they pause right away. Like, oh, there's exploited funds out there. It's like, well, yeah, they ain't going to go away. So by your own logic, if you pause, you should never restart because there's funds out there. You know what I mean? And then they throw heat at THORChain just because we stand on the principles of our permissionless neutral infrastructure, right? When they make their swaps and then they start up and then they boohoo and point at THORChain, like, no, like what we're doing is what everyone should be doing. And we're not going to stop. I mean, we're not going to bend the knee at all. So yes.
Yeah.
And like,
keep going.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, that list thing is crazy. Like that big swap we had, it was like 30-something million dollars or whatever, right? When that happened, we celebrated because we waited, Chad. We said, oh, is this legit? And then we checked all the filters and it was fine. And we're like, woohoo,
right.
A whale is using THORChain. They trust THORChain. This is awesome. Look at the flow. Look what we can handle. This is an amazing accomplishment. And then it comes out later, right? And I think it was processed through SwapKit. Yes, I'm pretty sure it was SwapKit, right? They have an amazing filter. They do their best to prevent bad actors, but even they failed, even having some of the most sophisticated things. So it doesn't work. It's just a hollow and empty, meaningless ask. It's a virtue signal and nothing more. That's my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree. Keep doing what we're doing. Stay true to the philosophy. Freedom. It's not something we can just like choose to remove whenever it's the most convenient for us or whatever. Right? Keep going. If they want to argue or yell on Twitter about whatever, like I don't even care anymore. Just keep doing what we're doing. We know what we're doing is right for society as a whole. And, like a very small percentage of the volume that comes through THORChain is actually, malicious funds. It's an extremely small percentage. I don't even know what the number is, but it's probably like 1 or 2%. And it's like, it's tiny, 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 tiny. We've done like 115, $120 billion in volume or whatever the hell the number is now. And people use this stuff all the time for legitimate purposes all the time, 99% of the time. So get out of town.
The standard they also apply to us is unfair, right? Because they say, well, while it's happening, why don't you pause? Well, we can't do that, you guys, because if we pause, THORChain dies. Straight up. We need to always be running. We always not speak up because if we pause, when do we restart? Like, how does it even make sense? Like,
Yep.
the funds are always going to be there. You know what I mean? Like you're like the first principles of your argument, the meat and bones of the anger is completely unjustified. And I just got to say, you guys, you're misdirecting it. It's THORChain. THORChain was not the one-of-one DVN that caused this problem. THORChain is the solution. People getting rugged, like from bad, like maybe wallet security, right? Our communities fixed a great, like Voltisig, right? Those are THORChain engineers that have built this. Like what I always tell people is like, this ecosystem is the ultimate solution to the problem. We just need people to adapt and the security posture that we have proven has worked for the last 6 years.
Yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree. I totally agree. And we're going to keep on having this discussion, every
Yes.
6 months or every 12 months or whatever the hell the number is, because something's going to happen. Somebody builds something, it gets exploited, unfortunately. And, just it is what it is,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, yeah, it's like a bug bounty for DPRK. As bad as they are, I hate the DPRK, but they essentially audited the security model, and their reactions, even though they were not trying to be good people, is going to result in the industry getting better now. I mean, imagine if they had waited like 5 years from now to pull this one-of-one DVN thing. It probably would have been trillions of dollars. Who effing
Yeah.
knows? You know what I mean? So it's like, guys, it's count your blessings. I mean, there's silver linings to everything. Sorry it
Yeah.
happened. I hate it, but what are you gonna do?
The funny thing is that, like, uh, for some reason, I just feel like we get heat for this and like nobody else does. I don't know why that is. Like, for example, like Uniswap, I don't ever see anybody complaining that Uniswap, does transactions with malicious money or whatever. And the funny thing is, like they could censor their transactions if they wanted to. Like, they could release Uniswap v 5 or whatever the next version might be, and in version 5 there's a EOA wallet or multi-sig wallet controlled by the Uniswap Foundation that had the ability to ban, block, or whatever funds or whatever. They could easily add it into the next version of Uniswap. It wouldn't even be that hard. But they haven't, and nobody gives them a slap on the wrist for that. Like, I don't understand why people like yell at THORChain all the time, like we're doing something differently than any other index that existed before us. From Bancor to Uniswap to everything else. It's just, I don't know why people give us a hard time. Maybe it's just because like we're the most useful exchange. You know what I mean? Because if you steal something on Ethereum, you don't really necessarily need to go. Like you have to go someplace else. So you want to go to Bitcoin because it's more liquid, and there's more places you can exit potentially or whatever. But like, I don't know. It just seems ridiculous to me. It's just like it's inconsistent.
Yeah, and put it on the screen right now. I want to thank everyone. Thanks for fighting, guys. Super grateful. Time to price average. Grab the next leg up. Like, a lot of the people who have been screaming at it. I want to think we should take a time, Chad, to thank the individuals who've been screaming in the opposite direction back at them, like Joel from the Dash community.
Yeah, he did a great job. That was a great rant he had the other day.
He made an amazing video, you guys. If you have not seen it, please go check it out. It went pretty viral. I think it's up to like 30 or 40,000 views right now, where he came to an impassioned defense of THORChain, what it means, right? And putting the blame where it properly belongs. And I can't thank you. And a lot of the THORChain people, I've seen the Maya protocol people, of course. A lot of people from our app layer who are THORChads as well, obviously. And even people, partners who I don't even know. I've seen people comment who just came to our defense, and want to just give a very heartfelt thank you to all those individuals. And please keep going. And I can just tell, like, I'm I could be biased, but I think it's obvious we're winning the PR war on this front because we're correct. It's the way it's got to be.
Yep.
And
Yep,
I
I totally
invite
agree.
Yeah, and I invite anyone, if you are listening to this and you do not agree with us and you have maybe a podcast, if you want to have a conversation about this, Chad gave out an invitation to Tavano. It extends to you as well. Reach out to the THORChain account, whatever you want to do. We'll have a conversation. We would love to have an interchange because this is something that we need as a community, as an ecosystem, the whole blockchain space, to get consensus on, because it's really important, you guys. Very, very important. Well, look who it is. Is that an old man I see?
It's a
Look
Canadian.
at that. What's going on, buddy?
Hey guys, I'm in a bus
How you
station
doing?
in Mexico City.
Nice, great city.
Yeah, just heading out here in a bit. So I thought I'd call in and say hi, see how it's going. Um, did I assume you guys are talking about the hack
Yes.
funds going through?
Yeah.
I at least just wanted to throw in my 2 cents and all. I'm interrupting you guys. You keep
Go ahead.
talking about.
No,
Okay.
you perfect time. Go ahead.
Obviously, it's not. We don't want this, right? But we know it's going to happen, right? This is inevitable, right? And so if anyone's getting, some people might see the comments about money laundering. Don't get triggered, guys. These people are mouth breathers. They don't get it. You'll never convince them. You'll never change their mind. See the positives. It's free marketing, and any publicity is good publicity, and it's free training for AI. So and the people that get it, how many? You have half of Twitter is against us for not censoring, and the other half of Twitter is against Arbitrum for censoring, right? So
Yep.
but we're gonna win. We're gonna win this battle, and this is the battle Bitcoin fought for over 10 years, being accused of money laundering for over a decade. We're on the same path as Bitcoin. We're just 10 years behind. So and perversely, the whole point of this technology is for the people of North Korea, not for Kim Jong-un. Is for the citizens that are enslaved in that dictatorship. This is how, if there's any technology that can set them free, it's THORChain. It's Bitcoin. It's crypto. They can try and create a circular economy and try to escape, try to get away. So this is exactly the point of crypto.
Yeah,
is to help those people.
This is the reason why North Korea doesn't have access to the internet. There's only 11 IP addresses total in the entire country of North Korea, believe it or not. I used to work at a company a long time ago as a system engineer, and I was told to block our service from North Korea. I had to block 11 IP addresses back then, which is just a crazy notion. But yeah, I did it because I was, told to by my boss. But they don't even have access to the internet. So it's they're still being oppressive, but they can't even buy Bitcoin because they don't even, can't even get a wallet, unfortunately. But that's oppression to an extreme degree,
Yeah. Maybe Iran's a better example.
Iran's a great example. We could talk about, Turkey. You could talk about Venezuela. You could talk about Lebanon. You could talk about Cyprus. You could talk about there's no shortage of places in the world where people are being, especially financially, oppressed by their government. And you can even arguments that the United States of America is oppressive from a financial perspective in some ways. Not as bad as Lebanon necessarily, but still, it still exists.
Yeah, totally. Well, you guys keep talking. I'll be a fly in the wall for 20 minutes here. Maybe I'll chime in here and there.
Well, Kenton, you're here. I just want really quick, because the beginning you weren't here. Did you have any marketing update or anything you want to add while you're here at all?
No, gosh. So I'm a bit tired because of traveling. I had delays and flights with everything, so I'm a bit tired. Off the top of my head, I'm sorry, guys, that this website is just dragging on, taking me forever to get over the finish line. So I'm just trying to get that done. I've got a good lead for a marketing group in the CIS region. So I'm gonna try and talk to them. But so doing some promotion. There's another group that we're moving forward. I'm pretty sure we're just a promotion with. I just want to iron out some more details. I think you guys will like it. I'm trying to think. Yeah, sorry guys, I'm tired actually. I'm a bit exhausted, so I can't think of anything else off the top of my head.
That's all right. That's all
You're
right.
fine, bro.
I know there's been some issues with STO, so we're working on it. The guys know about it. The kind of the way they've been going the last few months is like they'll spend some time on a feature and then stop working on features for a while and then fix all the bugs. Then once all the bugs are fixed, they start working on a feature again. So they were busy working on the features for memos, the bonding, TCY and whatnot. And so some of the bugs were kind of piling up a bit. And so now it's bug fixing time. And so I noticed some people have said they've had a bug like a week ago, still there. Thank you for saying something. Keep telling us, keep bringing it up. I just apologize, it hasn't been fixed yet. But I do see them. I do forward them on. I'm gonna try and talk to Ibec tonight. Be late my time tonight, early his morning, so we'll get an update there. But yeah, nothing really big or major to update you guys on. Just more housekeeping.
You know, Kenton, I had a meeting this morning with a large wallet. I'm not going to say which one, but a very large wallet. And Randy, I actually had that meeting with that wallet, and they were telling us a story that they integrated with THORChain directly back in the day. This is like this is probably like 2022 days or something like this, and they told me this story that for whatever reasons they had a hard time integrating. They were running into errors or issues, and they're having some problems, and then they eventually just decided like, we're not going to do it ourselves. We're just going to use SwapKit instead. And so we kind of lost them as a direct integrator just because of some bugs or issues. And they didn't know what it was. You know, it was from a long time ago, and I don't know any of this. Like, nobody told me that they were struggling at that time or whatever. And I was curious from like your perspective as somebody who just built an integration directly. Obviously, STO is that does swaps one. Or have you seen it? How would you do you feel about integrating with THORChain to do swaps? Like, do you feel like the documentation is good? Do you feel like it's pretty easy and simple, or is it like a lot to be desired?
Yeah, to be frank, I don't know. I can know because I'm not a dev, right? I've never actually gone through the process of integrating our own API. And I'm sorry, guys, I can't. Normally, when I troubleshoot things, I go through, do it myself, see how it works from the client, the customer's perspective. I don't know how to do that for our own API. And so we've talked. I think we've sent the API key to 6 different teams now, and every one of them I'm asked, please let me know what's lacking, what isn't clear. Do you have any problems, any issues? Please let me know. They all said, yeah, we'll get back to you. I haven't heard anything back, but that doesn't mean that everything is okay, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But part of me is worried. Maybe it is so bad that they just like not even gonna bother saying. It's like, guys, there's so many things wrong. You guys like.
I hope not. I hope if that was the case, then the IBEX team would have said something, I'm sure.
Well, yeah,
right?
and like I think IBEX team, I think those Hubble guys, I think they've done a great job. I think they're good devs. They have a wallet. They know what it takes to integrate something into a wallet. So I like to think what they've done is good enough. According to them, it is. The docs should be good. I know the docs in GitLab may not be as pretty as like a proper docs page. Maybe some people are used to saying. But I kind of took it from the point of view that it was the GitLab docs are written by devs for devs, and that they put in what needs to be there. We'll find out. So like, I think the most likely integrations we're going to get over the next couple months will be Cake Wallet and a couple other Monero wallets. I think Monero one, and then one more. I forget the guy's name, because they're pretty keen on Monero, right? And so they want to have THORChain integrated, ready to go for when Monero is live. So I don't see why they'd be blowing smoke up our butts, right? I don't know why they would say that. So I assume they're going to follow through. and then I can debrief. I can ask them again once they're done. Hey guys, how did the integration go? Please, any feedback, and like give it to us. Be as brutal as you can. I like to think they will. So if they're Monero people, they're principled people, and they should. I like to think would be willing to help us there. So, the Cake Wallet guys are going to be in Vegas. They said they're coming to the meetup. So maybe they've already a look at things, and we can talk to them in person and ask them. No, obviously we want to make this as easy as possible, as little friction as possible. And the only way, right? Yeah. Maybe if there's anyone listening, like, community members that want to help, if you want to try integrating the API on your own, just create, I don't know if you can create your own app to do it, just to tell us how hard it is.
Yeah. How's the experience? What's clear? What's not clear? What was easy? What was hard? What would you change if you could change anything? Like we want to improve this. Like I've never played with it myself either. I've always been just hands deep in the back end code and trying to build what I'm trying to build and all these things. So I've never really spent much time on my side. Actually, Nine Realms spent most of their time doing the integration kind of work and that kind of stuff. So I was really on their plates rather than my own. But I find myself getting more involved on the integration stuff and having more meetings with Randy and other people and yourself as well, Kenton, sometimes. And, I'm getting my hands dirty on that kind of stuff as well at this point. I want to make sure that it's smooth, that it's easy, so that when I go to a partner and I say, hey, you can integrate with THORChain directly and it's clean, it's simple, they can get it done in an afternoon or something as easy as possible, So I was curious about your experience, but maybe it's better to talk to IBEX directly because they're more technical.
Yeah. It'll be nice if we get a few wallets over the line. Then I think we'll get better data. Someone told me that it actually does take a few days or a week to implement. That doing it in one day is kind of a bit unrealistic. I don't know. Yeah. From what I've been told, even with the help of AI, you should be able to do it in a day. Yeah. But Chad, going to your point about a wallet having a direct integration with THORChain and wasn't really working that well. I've heard that from someone else too, that, orders are being dropped on THORChain and they just turned off the route. But I think that was like 2022 days, 2021 days.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, a lot's changed, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember that meeting we had a few weeks ago now, that wallet that wanted our data on Bitcoin transactions because the provider they're using, I think he said like 50% of their Bitcoin trades get dropped or canceled or whatever, and they wanted to know how good we are. And so we sent them, we've got a Dune page with our entire Bitcoin transaction history. And then that first year, 18 months, it is a bit, there's a lot of red. But now these last 2 or 3 years, like our success rate is easily in the 90 some percent, right? And even and of the failures, half of them I think are due to slippage, which is to be expected, right? So I think only a few percent of our actual transactions fail for like some other reason. And even then, I think if you start looking at those, it could just be the memo was created wrong. Maybe someone's doing a custom memo, right? I think now, whether it's a Swapcode API or our API or whatever, I think every THORChain transaction goes. I don't know. I don't that the many are that fail. I think it's very rare now. So hopefully we get those people back.
I can imagine those early days at this is before streaming swaps, and you had these large swaps happening or relative to the pool, large swaps. And, the arbs weren't as strong back then, or keeping the pools arbed. And there's so many ways it could have failed back in those early days. But I agreed. Like in the last couple of years, it's pretty consistent and pretty solid. And if it's not, I want to know about whoever the integrator that's seeing that kind of failures or whatever, please let me know so that I can do a deep dive and I can get one of my devs on it and we can, patch whatever the issue is. I want this thing to be friggin' iron solid clad, predictable, consistent, reliable. You don't even know that it's there anymore because it's just always doing what it's supposed to be doing, within the realms of possibility. So I want to know these things. So I'm actually really enjoying to be on these phone calls and meeting these integration partners these days, because I just never engaged in that kind of way. I was always just focused on the code solely, and now that I'm getting my hands kind of dirty in that way, I get to talk to them directly and know what their problems are. And whenever they describe something to me, I'm like, oh, I could solve that easily, or whatever, right? And fix it, and move forward. Like, this is crazy to me that we it took us this long to get to this place where we're doing this. But we're moving forward. It's a new team, it's a new dawn. It's I'm very excited, very bullish of the direction we're going on, and we're going to be heading in a really positive direction in a very short period of time, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. It's great between you and Randy getting on these calls, building those relationships. Like, and the Wallace want to tell us their pain points because they want them solved, right? So like,
Mhm.
it's mutually beneficial. So like, it shouldn't be that hard for us to find out what the issues are, and but we do need somebody on THORChain's team doing it, right? If we outsource it to a third party, they don't. It's not that they're being malicious. They don't necessarily have THORChain's interests at heart, right? So
Right, they have their
whereas
own.
they have their own, which is fine, it's fair. But a THORChain dedicated person who can get in and actually represent THORChain and get in there from THORChain's perspective, we can dial in and find out what the issues are quicker and solve them quicker. So
Mhm.
so it's great, exciting talking to you about it, Chad. We've had some offline conversations about it, and like I feel like this is good. Like there's a lot we can do. A lot Chad can do to make changes and improvements in the code to make THORChain more competitive. And I feel like we're just getting started. Like there's
Yeah.
still, yeah, like
Should I talk about
yeah.
that thing we were talking about earlier this week or last week? Or do you
I'm
want to keep
happy.
that quiet for
Well,
now?
I say maybe not unless we're gonna do it for sure. Should we wait, or do you think we're gonna do it for sure? Or
I think we are. There's little. Well, my opinion is yes. This is a kind of an easy yes, in my opinion. Obviously, I don't speak for all the nodes and everybody's opinions, but for me, it's an easy yes. It's a way of like really increasing the amount of revenue and volume and fees and volume we collect. So it seems like an easy yes.
and it might need, I don't know if it need a node vote or not. I think it's an easy yes as well. To be frank, I think this is the way it should have always been done.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe to
Well, you
let
guys are
people
killing me
guess
over
it.
here.
I know that now they're
I'm freaking out.
Now we
I'm
have
like,
to at this point. Now we have
what
to.
are we talking about? What are we talking about? How's my brain doing? Yeah.
Coke just chimes in.
well. You know what? Maybe I'll
Uh,
let you tell them, Chad, because looks like they're they're waving people to get on the bus. So
okay,
I'll let you tell
I'll talk
them.
about it.
I'm gonna try and listen on YouTube. Maybe I'll chat in the peanut gallery on YouTube. But yeah, if you want to tell them. But I'm glad you're on board, and I think everyone will like it. So yeah,
Yeah, okay.
cool.
All right,
Okay,
I'll talk about it. All
all
right,
right, thanks,
Later,
guys.
brother.
Bye.
later. Okay, so this was something that Kenton came to me with last week, and we had me, him, and Randy had kind of a long conversation about it. So the idea is just like is fairly simple. It's just like doing like a revenue share, meaning that when we get certain partners, let's call them SwapKit for might be an example, or TrustWall might be another example, or whatever, right? We kind of have a partnership with those Thor names, if you want to call them that. And when they give us X amount of revenue, 200,000, don't get too attached to the numbers, but just making up numbers. If they give us $200,000, of revenue in a day or a month or whatever it is, we'll give them 10% of what they gave the protocol. If they give us $500,000, we'll give them 20%. If they give us 10 million, we'll give them half of that, right? And so the idea is that like for something like like a swap kit where they're charging 25 bips on all of their partners, they don't really care if it's Near or Chainflip or THORChain. They're still getting their 25 bips either way. They have no interest in and they don't want to charge more fees. They're charging what they're charging. And, we could go to a swap kit and we say like, hey, if you give us more volume, instead of getting 25 bips per trade, you'll get, 25 bips plus 10%, right? Or plus this, plus that, or whatever it might be. And to really kind of, create a stronger economic incentive and really empower somebody like, Randy, who's doing business development, to be able to, have a selling point, to, a reason to integrate with THORChain that is, that Chainflip doesn't have or near or whatever. And so we can just get them to just send us more volume and we'll give you more revenue, right? And as the more rev fees we collect, the more fees you collect, right? Make it directly conditional in that sense. Not conditional, but directly symbiotic, or if you want to use it that way. And so it just gives us another kind of lever to pull on to garner more fees, more volume from our vast market out there.
Well, I'm smiling like an idiot because I don't really have much to add to that, Chad. I think that's an excellent idea. It's a positive feedback loop. It aligns the incentives of actually, getting more swap volume, which is the most important thing, and you should definitely do that. So if anyone has any problems with that, let me know. But that doesn't check one red flag in my brain. That is a simple incentive that allows us to capture integrations and to reward them for using THORChain on the back end. It is a beautiful idea. It is, again, a positive feedback loop. My brain really likes those. So yeah, boys, fire away. I don't think nodes are going to have a problem with that. Are you a node out there? Let us know. You want an ADR on this? Maybe you have questions. Fair questions. Maybe they want some details. Maybe I'm not thinking of the question. Let's get that going. Put it in Dev Discord. But to me, this seems pretty obvious. And to Kenton's point earlier, I didn't know what he was talking about, but now I do. This is the way it should have always been done. I agree with that.
Yeah. I
agree
think
with
one of the complexities about it that I'm still kind of mulling over or thinking about is like, how do we control this? Is it algorithmic? Is it manually managed? Like, what is it here? I think when we left the conversation last we spoke, and of course this is, subject to discussion and change and, based upon the community feedback and all these things, is that like just having it just be an operational mirror for a per THORChain basis. And so that way, just, people like Randy and Kenton can, talk to some affiliate of some kind and kind of cut a deal of whatever. And then getting like five of Kenton's nodes or, or other people's, just to have 5 nodes vote to give this particular affiliate 10% or 20% back. Now, if somebody, does this maliciously and they, enable it when they shouldn't be enabled, then 6 nodes have to vote against those 5 nodes. And it just becomes like kind of a, on-chain voting battle between those 2 points, which I'm not terribly concerned about because, nodes are nodes, like they're not malicious by nature. And if they start to be malicious and give themselves, cheaper fees or whatever, that's fine. And then we just vote against them and turn it off. Like it's not that big of a deal.
Right. And I like how you said that the more swap volume they did, the higher percentage of a kickback they get. I think that's a perfectly tiered incentive, you know what I mean? Which actually incentivizes them to even do more volume, right? Maybe like go to THORChain specifically instead of a competitor. I think that's a really good idea. I guess I'm kind of curious what would happen in special weird scenarios where if they made a swap and it went out of slip parameters, well, I guess it wouldn't matter, right? Because the fee is already charged. That's not
Well,
right.
if they don't, if the swap doesn't execute because it doesn't hit the right parameters, or whatever, then it doesn't count because
Right.
we didn't collect any fees from that transaction, right?
Right.
Or
Yeah.
maybe we did
Simple.
a partial streaming swap, or some of the sub swaps worked and some of them didn't, and and that's a partial, and that's fine. That still counts. So we might just do a thing of like, okay, here's the table. In a 30-day period, on average, how much revenue did you generate for the protocol? If you're in the gold tier, that's $10 million. If you're in the, silver tier, or that's $1 million. I have no idea what these numbers are actually going to be. I'm just making up
I
random numbers
understand.
right now. But like, you have to perform for 30 days, giving us a good amount of volume. And then, we'll look on the 30th day, we'll like somebody like Kenton or Randy would look at your data and say, oh, hey, you gave us $10 million this last 30. So for the next 30 days, we'll give you the 50%, kickbacks, and so forth and so
Yes.
on.
Yeah, I like how you have an upgradable tier system, and then maybe you can even do a system where the top 5 performing integrators get an additional thing. So there's competition between integrators, not just competition with themselves to increase the tier to like a silver or gold or whatever vernacular we use, but maybe you could do an overall competition where the best of the best. I don't know. Maybe that adds too much complexity, but that's a lot to think about. Pretty cool.
It
I
is.
like
I
the
mean,
idea.
keep it simple for V1, and
Yeah,
test it out.
V1 simple.
Keep it simple for V1, test it out. Let's see how it goes, and if it's really successful, then we can kind of learn from what we've done thus far in mainnet with actual data and interactions and like the results of and then you can look at V2 and say, now that we know more than we know, that we do today, how do we want to change it? How do we want to improve it? What includes in V2 of this concept? But for V1, keep it simple,
Keep it
test the
simple. I
waters,
agree.
and see if we can use it as a tool to garner more volume, and convince more wallets and integrators, like you can make more money, using THORChain without really, gouging your users, right? And increasing the bips that you want to receive. You can keep the fees cheap for them, but you still make more money.
Indeed. And if you have this system, what's really cool about it too is because since they're such powerful ecosystem partners, not just for THORChain, but the industry at large, like imagine a trust wallet. If they're making good money with THORChain, then they're our greatest advocate and our defender. They don't want
Sure.
this, money to go. So I think this is a great idea on multiple levels. I love it. My brain loves
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I've already started coding it up just to code it up, and then we can do an ADR if we want to, and vote it through or whatever. But because I wasn't sure about some of the math of it or the complexities of like the code part, I wasn't sure about X, Y, or Z, and so I wanted to play with it to wrap my brain a little more deeply. But it's actually not as hard to implement than I thought it was when I first was thinking about it. So I'm actually quite relieved that it's not that complicated. It seems.
I absolutely love it, man. Absolutely love it. So there you go, guys. There's some alpha for you. Some new ideas at work, and I love when that stuff drops on the show. This is what these shows are meant to do, Chad. I love it. Oh, so happy.
I love
Okay.
dropping alpha on this show. That's my favorite part of this whole show, is just dropping some fun alpha, like some fun idea concept for the roadmap that just feels really bullish and position us much stronger in the industry, right? I'm happy to be back working on this protocol again, and I'm happy to return it to its more former glory in a sense, and I'll doing everything I can to get it there.
I love it too, and I am so glad you're back. And that's the cool thing with THORChain is yeah, we have our roadmap that we talk about all the time, but really we could just come up to an idea and say, let's do it. Let's do it. Whatever. It could be like a really sudden event, and then suddenly like everything changes. Like that's how I remember streaming swaps. Like streaming swaps was such a huge moment. I remember you talking about it. Like if I remember correctly, you were like a little skeptical on the idea, and then it was like the next one, you're like, well, actually, wait a minute. This actually could cause us to have the best price execution of any single outlet out there. And you were 100% correct. And you coded it, and it was such a banger thing. So,
Yeah, yeah.
those
For
are the glory days.
For
I
a
love it.
while, we were the cheapest place to buy and sell Bitcoin on the planet. Like we were better than Binance and Coinbase and all those guys. We were the only DEX the option at the time that supported Bitcoin, on the layer 1 Bitcoin, and we were the cheapest place for a long time. And that was because of, and even with large trades, like super large trades, it was pretty awesome. I was super proud of what we had accomplished.
Yeah, I'm still proud of what we've done. We're often the one. Maya protocol would do the same thing, of course. So shout out to our Maya protocol. We love them to death. But we're still like this. I feel like there is something special. It's people listening to this who may not be. I swear this is not like some solipsistic, narcissistic episode. Like THORChain, by far, is like often the lone knight when it comes to upholding like the ethos of blockchain space. I don't think that's questioned at this point. We're pioneers, and we'll never stop. We keep going. So just love this community. Okay, is there anything you want to add to that, Chad, before we move on?
No, that's about it.
Okay, yeah, sweet. So questions for you. XMR update. How's it going? Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting real close. I'm hoping to get it merged, in the next week. I think we're fairly close. So we've been comments back and forth. It looks pretty good to me. There's some concerns I have around it, and some technical concerns about it being smooth and all these things, but we're gonna at some level we're just gonna have to try it out on chainnet and see how it goes, and if there's problems we fix it, and so forth and so on. And like I'm kind of concerned about the whole UTXOs being frozen for 10 blocks. Like that might be at a layer of complexity that would make it very difficult for the protocol to operate smoothly, especially in high volume. But we'll play with it and do the best we can, and we might need to tweak it and change the like UTXO consolidation strategy or something like this possibly. We'll work it out, that kind of thing. But I think we should hopefully get it merged like by the end of next week.
I love it. I love it. So, okay. So just so I understand, the 10 blocks. So a block was this like every 20 minutes or something, XMR? Am I completely wrong about that? Or?
2 minutes, I think.
Oh, 2 minutes. Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Because it's times 10. So it's a 20-minute wait. I totally
Yeah.
botched that in my brain. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is for like an outbound, right? Like an inbound.
Outbound,
Okay.
yeah.
Outbound. Because, okay, so if you send XMR to another XMR address that you own, that amount of XMR is basically stuck for 10 blocks. And they do that because they're trying to improve the obfuscation layer on it. They
Right.
don't want, okay, right.
They don't want fast transactions of
Right.
UTXOs to be consumed, created and burned in a very short period of time.
Right. And so really big volume going through THORChain could cause a problem, perhaps with arbitrage. Is that the concern? Because you're waiting for, how does that?
Arbitrage, not as much, because arbitrage happens on THORChain itself through secured assets for the most part, so you don't have any limitations around that. Maybe if you were trying to kind of rebalance your position as an arbitrage bot and withdraw a secured asset into its layer 1 counterpart, then it might be an issue, because you might see like a 10-minute wait or in that scenario, theoretically, possibly. So that could be a problem, but we have to figure out the correct UTXO consolidation pattern, because you can't let it grow too large, because then when you churn, it's going to take too many signatures. He's assigned each individual UTXO, not each transaction. And if you do too much UTXO consolidation, then you're going to be locked up. All your funds are going to be locked for 20 minutes, somewhat frequently. And that's obviously not good either. So we're going to have to play with this a little bit. Maybe it might require some experimentation, a little bit in the earlier days. But, again, we're doing something here that like nobody's ever done before. So it's going to take a little bit of work.
And shout out to the XMR people. That I've gotten a lot of people to follow me on the XMR thing, because there was I don't want to say the name, but there was a rather famous XMR DEX that paused because of illicit funds, and we had some exchanges and words with them, and I had a lot of XMR people follow me. So if you are watching this live or the recording, guys, I'm sure Chad would be more than happy if maybe an XMR dev would just offer some input or maybe some suggestion. Yeah. So
some ideas, suggestions. I'm happy to receive those. Yeah, sure.
And just a reminder to everybody, let's wave the magic wand. Let's say XMR's on chainnet, blah, blah, blah. It's been tested. We push to the mainnet. Just a reminder, the pool will be very shallow, probably not more than a few $1,000s. Don't make really big swaps. And if you make a swap, understand that there could be bugs, that we could pause the chain. I'm expecting we'll pause the chain. Honestly, every chain we add, there's always pauses. If there was no pauses on XMRs, like I'll buy you a car, Chad. That'll be unbelievable. It'll be incredible.
I'm gonna hold you to it.
Yeah, please do. I'll be so thankful. You know what I mean?
Give me a Cybertruck.
We got one of those, actually. But yeah, so yeah, guys. And then we will gradually deepen the pool, the more comfortable, at the discretion of devs like Chad Bareford, that it is functioning properly, and there's funds not being lost or whatever. I've been sharing that video. We did a short as well. We have to change
I remember
some
that.
vault
Yeah, I
logic,
saw that.
which is great. We need one. We're going to do one vault, which is different than our regular 6 Asgard vaults, just so we can make sure of solvency. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, if you want, but
no, not really. I think I laid it out pretty well in that little that clip. But I think it's better to do it that way, and it's more secure, and it's more verifiable, I guess, than what we had before, than the multiple bots. I mean, like we operate, every system operates with assumptions around security. Like for us, we operate that, like, we assume that 2/3 majority of the nodes are good operators, like good faith operators, right? if you're in a situation where you can't make that assumption anymore, then basically all the Bitcoin's gone, all the Ethereum's gone, all the assets are gone at that point. If 2/3 are malicious, so by having one vault, it ensures that like that stealing would be so hard that you wouldn't know the funds would necessarily be missing if somebody did steal in that hypothetical scenario. But if that's the case, then you would also just steal all the Bitcoin, the Ethereum, and everything, because you've access to all the tokens at that point. So it's the strongest position we can possibly take around this.
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. Okay. So XMR, it's looking real good, guys. Hopefully we get a little movement 1 to 2 weeks. Do not crucify if Chad is to mend that, because again, this has never been done before. And when things have never been done before, you don't know what you don't know. Okay. So, be a little lenient on the time frame. Let's see here. I got some message here. Perfect. Okay. So, I had a question from, I think it's a whale BP. It might be a node operator as well, but they were curious on the opt-in chain clients. How is that doing recently? Is there any movement on there or time frame or whatever?
Yeah, there's a draft MR that I've thrown together. So I'm working on that. I probably won't work on it very much this week or next week, because next week I'll be at the Bitcoin conference and I'll be running around and, probably not coding very much next week, to be honest. But yeah, that's on the move. I'm gonna try to target it for 3/19, hopefully. 3/19 release. I think it's an interesting question of like, do we want to wait on XMR until opt-in chain security, or do we want to go before that point? And I think that's an interesting debate that the community can have about, what kind of position do we want to take on that. Part of me thinks it's best to wait for opt-in chain security. That way nodes can participate in Monero if they want to, and don't if they don't want to, and it's up to the individual and whatever. What do you think?
My gut says the same thing. I think that might be a good idea to wait for opt-in chain clients, and not make it an overly committal. That's not the right way to say it, but you know what I mean. Don't make every node. There may be some nodes who are very aligned to the protocol, but for maybe temporary reasons, they're not quite comfortable to do. And I think it's actually a good incentive, because let's say we do opt-in chain clients and then XMR goes live. We're making all this volume, all this yield, and the BPs are switching over. I think they'll naturally want to gradually to change their situation where they're in a position where they can be more comfortable to run XMR, because there is just some really unfriendly locations in the world that our node operators are. So I think so. I think probably opt-in chain clients probably should come first, I would say.
Well, in any case, I want to get both of these things ready to be shipped, as soon as reasonably possible. And then, it may not, maybe we don't have a choice because there's going to be bugs with Monero and, whatever. But or like it's actually, to be honest, there's a good chance that Monero won't be like fully ready live. Like it'll be maybe on mainnet like a little bit with a little bit of volume, in the early kind of beta days, and people can change their position on the opt-in security thing later. I don't know. I don't think I'm trying to ship them both and make them both available as options, and then we can just decide as a community which one we want to do.
Kenton disagrees. He says we all run XMR or no one runs it. We have strength in numbers. That is a fair point. I'm not sure. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's a good point. Maybe we'll ask in Dev Discord. Maybe we'll see maybe we'll try and get some feelers out there and see what the sentiment is and what people think. Because obviously I'm all in on XMR. I wanted to write. So it's kind of hard because I'm not every node operator. So yeah. Okay. Maybe that'll be something I'll try to do this next week and see if I can get some opinions and get together. But very good. Okay. So XMR, it's going pretty good. And as Kenton often says, he can't believe it's coming soon. I can't either. This is really, really crazy. Kind of harkening back to what I said earlier about like sometimes things just happen on THORChain thanks to people like Boone who really got the thing going. And holy crap, Chad. It's so great. Okay. We got Zcash coming. Tau, do you have any updates on that? I know you're not the main chain client guy. I don't know if you heard anything.
Yes, we do have a PR open right now for Tau. It's just waiting for review and merger and all those kind of things. It'll probably be included with 3/18 most likely, which is going to be cut on the 15th and then released to the nodes probably a week or 2 weeks later after that. So that's when Tau and even Polkadot could be launched around that time potentially with Monero potentially.
Wow. Potentially. Wow, that's really cool. And then so Monero, that'd be on ChainNet, or is that possibly mainnet? Possibly. What do you say?
Possibly mainnet. Yeah.
Wow,
Like
that's quick. Okay.
we'll probably have Tau merged in on ChainNet within a couple weeks, most likely. And then being tested and didn't, all these kind of things. And then we'll probably have Tau and Polkadot as, merge into, the mainnet code base as part of 3.18. And then it's up to us to just kind of flip it on whenever we're ready to flip it on mainnet.
Gotcha. Okay, very cool. Is there something else that you wanted to talk about at all? Anything interesting that you've noted? Always want to make sure, because sometimes I may not have the question to elicit an interesting response out of you.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my document over here. I got a bunch of it's kind of my little roadmap document I got in front of me here. I think one thing that I'm very interested in is stable to stable, because I mentioned before that I think 80% of Near's volume is just stable coins, which is obviously huge amount of like we do more Bitcoin trades and Ethereum trades than they do, right? Like by 2 or 3x. We have them beat in that particular area, but they're killing us on the stables. Like they're doing so well on the stables. And I was talking to somebody earlier today, and I won't name who they were, but and they were kind of saying this point, like a lot of the integrations that they've seen with many different wallets, they're 50% of the volume is on stables. And because we have one static fee for all of our trades, which right now is set to be 10 bips, 20 for double swaps, that's just not very competitive in the stable to stable market, which is very different than the Bitcoin to stable or Bitcoin to ETH market. It's structurally very different. So in 3.17, we have the ability for an operational Lemire to be able to set a different min fee or base fee for stable to stables versus any other trading pair. And so I think the intention is when we go to 3.17, which should be launching in a week or two, I think, we can flip this on and see what happens. Like we about 10% of our volume comes from stable to stables, which is a very small percentage relative to other other dexes out there. So if we flip this, for all stable to stables, it uses the anchor pool to determine what is and is not an anchor. So it has to be part of that anchor thing there. But if we flip this on, we could see a significant shift in the amount of stable to stable volumes that we see, and a lot more volume and a lot more fees. Of course, I don't know. This is an experiment. We'll see. We'll set it low to start to see how well it works, but there's so little to lose because such a small percentage of our volume is coming from stable stables anyway. So you might as well go for broke and see what happens, And if it doesn't work, then that's fine. We set it back to the way it is now, and it's not a big deal,
I think it's a great idea. I mean, it's all about dialing it in, right? To have a blanket fee for every pool, for every asset, when stable to stable is such an interesting and nuanced thing, right? I mean, I think that makes great sense. Absolutely. Soda says CCTP mostly covers USDC to USDC, but USDT to USDC still sucks. So maybe there's an opening there for us. Maybe our USDT to USDC could be a good volume generator for us, right?
It could be. It could be. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I do actually have a question, because someone did mention this to me. They weren't, but I'm going to put it in the form of a question. We did notice that there is USDT, and I believe USDC too. There has been some major freezings of stablecoins on the native assets on Ethereum. And someone did bring it up to me. They were concerned about potentially a centralized entity freezing a THORChain pool, right, as a hostile actor, whatever. And so I guess two questions. What would you do? What would happen? And then do we still use our Tor, Tor, our I'm so sorry, I'm tired, I'm blanking. You know what I'm saying? How would that be affected?
Good question. Okay. First part is what would happen. So if Coinbase/Circle wanted to freeze our USDC, so they would freeze all 6 addresses that we have. or maybe it would be the router. I'm not even quite sure which one. I guess it would be the router actually, but whatever, it doesn't matter. They would freeze those addresses, and then all of a sudden we wouldn't be able to sign transactions. We wouldn't be able to broadcast transactions and move USDC anymore. I don't know if it would allow more USDC to come in. I'm not sure if the freezing would include new coins coming in or not. But you know, you wouldn't be able to swap in the pool. Well, you would be able to swap in the pool, but you wouldn't be able to receive the funds because it wouldn't be able to broadcast and sign them anymore. So we would have to freeze the pool, pause it, and then effectively Ragnarok the pool effectively and say like we don't want to support these coins anymore. There's nothing we can do about it. You know, it wouldn't affect other pools. It wouldn't affect other trades. It would be very isolated to this, these pools, whichever ones are affected. But anybody who's an LP in that pool, I'm sorry, we cannot refund you your money. Like we can, we'll make every effort we can as developers to do that. But if they freeze us, they freeze us. Like nothing I can really do about that. For Tor, we would have to drop them as an asset, as a Tor kind of anchor, is the phrase we use, and say, and this that can be done through a Mimir, and say, okay, USDC is now removed, on these chains, whatever, and now instead of having, whatever the number is, 8 or 9, whatever the quantity is, the stable coins we have on the network, it's now going to be something smaller, whatever that number is going to be. I hope that doesn't happen. I'm not sure why it would, to be honest with you. Even with all the, KelpDAO stuff happening, like USDC is not part of that conversation, really. At least not on our trading. So if it happens, it happens. There's nothing we can do about it. That just comes with holding a centralized stablecoin, right? That's like you agree to those terms when you hold the asset, just by venue of holding the asset, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. And if they were to do that, if that were to happen, that would be such an unbelievable PR hit for that asset. I don't think it's very likely, right? Why would you want fungibility of I don't yeah, I don't see it, but it is a question that someone kind of asked to me, so I forwarded it to you. But
I mean,
okay, pretty straightforward. Just got a Ragnarok, and what
it
can you
does
do?
make sense to be able to freeze stablecoins because government's going to want that, right? It's going to be an important thing that governments want. And if you want government to support your stablecoin, like the U.S. government to support my U.S. stablecoin, being decentralized is not really like a great, selling point from that perspective, right? So I kind of get the need to be able to freeze stablecoins that of your own currency, of your own government. Also, obviously I disagree strongly with that
Yes.
for reasons that we don't need to get into. And that was the great thing about decentralized stablecoins, right? Even take like UST, for example, obviously had a collapse of a failure in the end, but it was decentralized, to be fair. And that was one of the selling points of using UST over USDC it was a decentralized stablecoin. It was an algo stablecoin, which is really nice in that particular attribute. But we still haven't really seen an algo stablecoin really be that successful, right? And the closest thing we see would probably be DAI, would probably be the largest stablecoin that's not owned by a company. But even that's not entirely decentralized because it's backed by USDC and USDT, you know what I mean? And it's kind of in its treasury. So it's like, it's a little decentralized in some sense, but not entirely. And it's actually, it's surprisingly hard to build a stable coin that is properly decentralized. And to me, it's still a holy grail in crypto land, is whoever can build like a designed stablecoin that won't collapse to zero. It's
It's an
hard. It's
interesting,
hard.
yeah, it's an interesting because it's like a misnomer name, like a stable coin, right? Like a stable coin is like as a derivative of fiat, and fiat is very unstable when it comes to purchasing power, right? And
Sure, of course.
it's like, and making a stable coin design when fiat itself really has no bottom when it comes to losing, it's just at some point it's got to break. So yeah, I'm curious if it's even possible because it's like you are subject to the whim and the capricious nature of the entity of the nation state that honors the fiat it's tied to. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
sure. It's a weird thing. And let me see the comments here. Go ahead.
Yeah, the irony for me is that, like, in my opinion, the greatest stable coin in the world will eventually be Bitcoin. Like eventually Bitcoin's going to become so massive as an asset. It's going to be more than the US dollar, which is like 85 trillion or something in this area. And there'll be a day when, in my opinion, when Bitcoin will hit 100. This is not an investment device, by the way, but like, is it, in my opinion, I think Bitcoin will one day hit, $100 trillion in market cap. And when that happens, it's going to be more stable than every stable coin and fiat currency in the world, because it takes so much economic power just to move it 1% up or 1% down. And there's no, inflation happening. There's no, corruption happening like you see with fiat currency, like on the daily. Right. So eventually, like, nobody needs to build a stable coin because it's just going to be Bitcoin, but we're years and years and years and years away from that.
Right, exactly. And I foresee a day, I know Kenton firmly believes this, is where where THORChain is the price oracle of BTC, because our pool is just so deep. I mean, because Rune has gone up so much, and POL, or whatever you want to say. So yeah. Someone asked in chat, and I know the answer to this, but I'm gonna put it up just in case someone has heard it. Like, regarding the freeze, assuming this would also affect the secured assets if the pool was frozen, and the answer is yes, it would. Right.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I would think so, because the secured asset is, it's not in the pool, but it's still in the vaults, right? It's the USDC itself is in the network, but not in the pool. But either way, whether the USDC is in the pool or not in the pool, either way, it's frozen. Doesn't really matter. There's no treating one differently than the other. Yeah, there's nothing we can do about it, unfortunately. And I wonder if that will ever happen. I don't think it will, to be honest with you. Unless there's some sort of big thing, like if we start doing Monero, for example, and we become some sort of huge lightning rod because there was another, Bybit or something similar to it, and they start trading through Monero, and then there's another big thing on Twitter with Tavon yelling around, and and maybe at that time there's more talk about this and pressure on governments to tell Coinbase that you should, whatever. I doubt that personally, but you never know.
That's the game theory in mind too. That's how I kind of sort of, if there was a chance it happened, it'd be something like that, where there was such a huge exploit and they just decided to, for whatever reason. But it's stupid because, the person could just take whatever native assets, assuming it's not the stablecoin itself, and swap to any other exogenous asset. It's just a dumb thing to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's the only thing I can think of too. And if they, if that would happen, that would be such a bad PR moment. And I really feel like the popularity of THORChain would just skyrocket. It was just like, come on, this is so absurd, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this whole event has been really a massive marketing for us. I mean, Kenton would make this point. It's been such a PR move, right?
Yeah.
And I got off the Crypto Quorum with Joel on Dash. Love that show. I do it every week with him just before this show. And it was nothing but praise by a lot of smart people on that thing for THORChain with it. The people who are in the know, the OGs, if you will, right? So just got to keep going, Chad. It's going to work out.
Yep.
Is there anything else on your list that you'd like to talk about? That was an awesome idea about your...
I'm
gonna check
man,
as
I think
well.
we're about like an hour 20 into this. The only other thing I have that's on my mind a lot is the whole dynamic fee model, and I'm very bullish on this. I think this is going to be an absolute game changer for us. I hope I'm not overselling it. I hope it's as good as I think that it will be. But I'm very excited about this because I think it's really going to fundamentally change how we are positioned in the market and how we can be super competitive with everybody. All of our competitors across the entire spectrum. And so I'm very, very, very bullish on this, and I'm very, very excited to get it out and flip it on for a couple affiliate friends to test it out, over there first. And if it moves smoothly and it works as well as I would like it to work, and all these things, we can roll it out to more affiliates and just start getting a lot more competition, a lot more volume. I think as Oleg said recently, I think he said publicly that like THORChain gets about 4% of SwapKit's volume, which is, meager. It's not very much. Like, obviously we're not happy with that. We want to get more to hit, but like in defense of SwapKit, just for a moment, like, they're just giving the trades to the best execution, like it's just, you can't fault them for that. You know what I mean? So we just have to get better. We have to get more competitive, right? We have to get better in our position and what the position that we want to take. And I think this feature is the I'm not just want to say silver bullet, but it's pretty darn close to make us highly competitive in every market, and all of a sudden just get a lot more volume than we are now.
So let's talk about this a little bit. So correct me if I'm wrong. From my memory, we kind of have like two things, right? Because weren't we talking about a previous conversation where we have a mechanism that is kind of like the min bits fee that's like algorithmic where it'll adjust based on the flow of THORChain, and now we have something now where we go to integrators and we give them min bips refund based
Yeah.
on there. So these are two separate mechanisms.
These are two separate mechanisms.
Yes.
One is the what I call the dynamic fee model, right? And that is the protocol monitors the volume and fees collected on a per affiliate per pair model, and sees how much volume we get, see how much we collect in fees, and then changes the bips for that specific pair on that specific affiliate, either up or down 1 bip in either direction, depending upon the circumstances. And then the next day looks again and say, hey, did we get more in fees or do we get less in fees, right? Compare it from 24 hours ago, basically, or maybe a week ago, doesn't matter. And then, just slowly just tweak each individual pair, like stables. We were talking about stables earlier. Like that's going to be naturally like a lot lower because there's a lot more competition there. But the Bitcoin to Monero, that's going to be no competition because we're going to be the only ones supporting Monero, right? And so that one, the fees will probably go higher because we're the only ones that do it, right? And so we can charge more and people will probably pay for it, like, you know what I mean? And which means the Monero chain would be producing a lot more revenue than other chains because it has higher fees. Because, to see what I'm saying? That's really big because in each individual affiliate, SwapKit, Trust Wallet, this, whatever the hell it is, like it'll just be an independent market that we are competing against, and this math will just let us know how competitive that market is specifically for that particular asset pair, trading pair specifically. That's the thing that I am most excited for, and I'm thinking that's most immediate. That's going to be part of 318. I'm pretty sure. The other thing we were just talking about was the rev share, and rev share is whatever we do get collected fees, the affiliate would collect some percentage of those. So right now, affiliates can add on top of our fees, 10 bips on top of what we're offering. And the rev share says, no, we'll give you some of what we're getting. We'll just give it to you directly and to incentivize you to send us more volume, because you said more volume, send us, the more fees we give you, right? And we can get into more interfaces that way. So that's a way of kind of like expanding how many interfaces and wallets that we're integrating with us, like to convince other, wallets and integrators to integrate with us directly versus just using like a SwapKit or something like this, because we'll do rev share. And that's expanding that side, going wide in a sense. And then the dynamic fee model is more like going deep, meaning that we are like within this kind of column of market of this provider, this affiliate, we are getting so much of the volume because of the mathematical analysis the protocol itself is doing dynamically on the daily to be highly competitive and get the most amount of volume, the most amount of fees rather possible. So that's like one's generating width and one's generating depth. You put those things together, that sounds pretty fucking good to me.
It does sound good to me. It sounds like they synergize very nicely, and it's almost like an algorithmic, like perfectly like market like mechanism that just does natural market behavior, and it's just constantly adjusting instead of just doing a flat rate. It's
Right.
just it's like a wave, and it's a
wave.
Yeah.
It's free flowing. It just goes to where it's like when you have when you have water that goes down like a stream or a river, it has different ways that it can move, the left side or the right side. There might be a rock over here, there might be smoothness over here, or roughness over there, and it just finds the most efficient way to move. The like water just moves very efficiently to from point A to point B wherever it's going, and it finds the most efficient way of going. So, and this is kind of doing the same thing to some extent, kind of. It's looking for the most efficient way for us to position our fees to collect the most amount of revenue possible for our nodes and our community at large.
I love it. There's some questions here about this. Let's start with the Coke. He says, how does the chain know the competition? I'm assuming the differences in price, and so maybe you could talk about that.
Yeah, so it doesn't really know the competition like in a direct kind of way. It just knows that like, well, when my fees were higher at 9 bips, I wasn't getting a lot of traffic. I wasn't getting a lot of volume because presumably there's some other option that's trading at 8 bips or 9 or 7 bips or something like this. And so like it just kind of figures out what the other competition is doing just by seeing what fee model, what bips is getting traffic and which ones are not. And you can kind of just determine it just by kind of like, it's almost like you're blind and you're walking around the room and you can feel around the room, but you can't really see what's in the room, but you know that the wall is there or whatever. Maybe that's a bad analogy, but
I
I
know
hope
what you
that
mean.
makes sense. Yeah.
Well, so in this instance, what we just had with these unfortunately exploited funds, which we're not happy about, but if that happened, then the fees would have been rising over the last day. I don't know by what degree or what severity, but it would have done a day's transaction. It was over 2 days, right? And so the protocol would have been generating more income from these fees because of just the outlandish volume based on this information, more or less.
Yeah,
So,
that's an interesting situation. So like the problem with looking like when you change the fee from like 5 bips to 6 bips or 7 bips to 6 bips or whatever direction you're going, you might get more in fees, you might get less in fees by making that change, but you don't necessarily know if it's the fee change that
right,
caused you to make more or less, right? It could be because there was a hack and there was $300 million that was traded to the network and it had nothing to do with your fee
right.
going up or
Yeah.
down, right? It's just like it had no relationship whatsoever. But the protocol can't really differentiate between what is like, oh, a hack and there's that has nothing to do with the actual BIP change that I made yesterday. Like there's no relationship whatsoever. So it's going to get a lot of noise in that sense of like, or like false signal, right? It might go down a BIP and fee and say, and then we got a hack and, and then the network's like, oh, that got us more fees. Let's go down another BIP. So even though that doesn't really even make sense, do you see what
Oh,
I mean? Or it
yeah,
could be
right.
just coincidentally, it could be the other way. Like we went up a BIP and then there was a hack and then a bunch of funds went through, oh, that worked really well. Let's go up another bit. And that had
How
nothing to do with it.
interesting.
So there's going to be times when it's going to have, misinformation in a sense and move in a direction that doesn't necessarily make the most sense. It should over the long period, like, over a longer sample, kind of figure out the right answer, but it may get bad information from day to day. And it's not just hacks. It could be, the room price was pumping, right? And when room price pumps or dumps, a lot more trades happen on THORChain because a lot more arbitrage naturally happens. So that could be a missed signal, right? So there are noises that can come into the system. And it's really hard to differentiate between what is signal and what is noise. And so there might be some tweaks and improvements we can make to the design to make that even more effective and just read more signal and drop more noise. For day one, I'm trying to keep it very simple and go for the simplest design decision, just so we don't overcomplicate it. I can just
Right.
get this thing merged and get 80% of the value, on day one rather than, waiting for day 60 and get 90% of the value or whatever, right? Just like launch something quick and easy that's a reasonable design to start with. We'll learn from the experience what worked and what didn't work and whatever, and make improvements as we see fit. But just, it's going to be hard for the protocol to differentiate between the signal and noise in a sense, and we'll just have to wait and see how well it works. But there's going to be days where it's going to get bad information and move in the wrong direction by a single bip. It's not going to be like 10 bips. It's going to be a
Right.
bip, maybe 2 bips. It's not going to be that big of a deal, I presume. We'll see if I'm right. We'll see if I'm wrong,
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting conversation. I love it. So someone else asked, would the app layer have its own bucket in the new fee model? Not sure if it's using Thor names at all.
Yeah, so this only applies to layer ones. This does not apply to Thor names. Sorry, to the secured assets that Ruji is using. There's a handful of reasons why that is. One, we don't want arbitrage boss to use this. We want arbitrage boss to be a consistent fee model. At least for the time being. Maybe we can change that later, possibly. But for the time being, we only want this to affect layer one swaps. Layer one Bitcoin to layer one. Whatever. If you're going layer one to secure to layer one, nope, that does not account. That's a standard static fee model in that scenario. This is only affecting layer one trades, which is, organic trading volume we get from the community or the larger market.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Great answer. We have a question here. We actually have a question from Oleg. It's in Telegram. Thank you, Oleg, for sending me a question. I'm glad I saw it. It says, hey, question. USDC is a centralized stablecoin. It's part of the asset. Thoughts on THORChain integrating CCTP or Circle Bridge natively to unlock USDC on more chains? Clear use case I would use. I send my Polymarket Polygon profits to native Bitcoin.
Oh, interesting. To be honest, I haven't thought much. To be honest, I'm not even familiar with CCTP. The analogy, the acronym you
CCTP.
use?
I'll copy and paste it in the thing here. But
Yeah,
that's the
I
question.
to be honest, I'm not particularly familiar with it, so I haven't really considered it. We could possibly do it sounds like we could do a chain client with this and then have a USDC pool and carry on. I'm open to it. I'm open, like I'm saying, we've been saying for a little while now. We've made a kind of a change in our position as a protocol, and we're interested in getting more chain integrations. And maybe CCTP is a good example of that.
Like, thank you for the question. Please reach out to Chad. He's interested. Let's see. Maybe yes. And I love it. There. I'm gonna go through my list here to see if anyone else has any questions, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate all the engagement. Okay, the THORChain Telegram is a mess right now, so I can't really look at that. Let's see here. Okay, I'm not seeing any question, guys. We're going on. We're not at 2 hours yet, but we are approaching there. Or are we? I don't even know. I'm so sleep deprived, you guys. I saw you guys roasting me in the comments. You know what? I've been up 2 days defending the ethos and honor of THORChain on X. I've had the same argument 50,000 times. I'm a little tired. Okay, it's you know what I mean. This is it's not a hard argument for to have because I'm so practiced, but it's just like, oh god, here we go again. You know what I mean? So, okay, let me go check out this channel. I want to make sure. I'm not seeing anything, Chad. Very good. Okay, is there anything else on your list, good sir?
No, I think that's pretty good, man. But actually one last thing, and then we can call it done for the day. Bitcoin conference, Las Vegas. People, I'm gonna be there. Denny, you're gonna be there, right?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna be there.
Kenton's gonna be there. Rain is gonna be there. We got a cake. I know you mentioned Cake Walt was gonna be there. It was like, come out, party, have a good time. Drink a beer with us, shoot the shit. We're gonna play some F1 racing games. I think it's like 10 digital cars we sit in and just race each other. Maybe we'll do like a tournament and like the top racer gets, some ruin or something. I'm not sure what, or a hat. I don't know, whatever, we'll figure something out.
That would be so great. So we have like okay, this is great. So we have a system where we have like a ranking, like we have all the people and then like, how it goes. But each time you win, you have to drink an entire beer. Right. So the drive.
You got to do like top 3 winners, like top 3. If you want, you got to chug a.
Right. Yeah. And so as it gets like their driving gets worse, but it gets more hilarious. You know what I mean? And then like there's the grand finale and then
everybody gets drunk then.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be, we could do something like that. That's
to be clear, everybody be safe. Do not drink alcohol beyond what you're comfortable with, blah, blah, blah. No peer pressure, whatever. Be safe. We're having fun. We're just joking around here, but yeah, come out, have a beer, have some racing, and we'll shoot the shit. We'll have a good time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I cannot wait for this. I love these moments so much. And I get to see Seth again. I saw him last time, 2022 or 2023, like kind. I talked to THORChain about him. This is back when I was just learning how to really promote the protocol. So I'm really excited to look for him. It's like, hey, you remember me? So it's going to be a great time, you guys. Monday. It's here. It's coming. So can't wait. Chad, Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you in just a few days.
Yeah, man. I'll see you in a little bit.
Hell yeah. Okay, guys. So for those who are familiar here, if you guys like to become a node operator, we need more unique node operators, guys. Please reach out to @RuneTard, all one word, @RuneTard on X. He can help you get set up, find bond providers. I'll help you too. For THORChain data and analytics, follow @RayAnalytics on X. He does the written recaps on these podcasts too. And guys, always remember these views expressed are solely of the host and guests. Any action based on this information is at your own risk. Past performance is not indicative of future results. This Saturday, we're going to have IBEC from Unstoppable, guys. So I'm going to be asking questions. Chad, you wanted to know how the integration go. I'm going to really grill him into that.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Sure
I'm very curious.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask that 100%. And then Sunday, I'm going to be doing the recap, hopefully as soon as possible. And then I'm off to Las Vegas, you guys. So I am so excited. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm probably going to take a nap today. Everyone, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.